as we begin the halachas hilchas basar v'chalav, I thought it would be kedai to introduce the olam with a hakdama shir, focusing on the makoira iser of basar v'chalav, the tam, the reason why basar v'chalav is aser, and also together to define where the iser is. When the Torah mentions the iser of basar v'chalav, lo savashal gedi b'chalei v'imoi, the Torah brings it 3 times. 3 times lo savashal gedi b'chalei v'imoi, which means don't cook a goat in its mother's milk, is mentioned 3 times in the Torah. Twice in Shemois, and Mishpatim, and Kisisa, and once in Devarim and Re'ei. Why do you need 3 times le savashal gedi, the iser basar v'chalav 3 times? It's an iser. Why 3 times? So the Gemara in Chulin says, Daf Kuftes Vav Amid Beis, Echad le'iser achila. One of the 3 times is coming to say that there's an iser achila to eat basar v'chalav. We'll see what type of basar v'chalav. Echad le'iser hana. You're not allowed to have hana from basar v'chalav. You're not allowed to have enjoyment, benefit from basar v'chalav. And then a 3rd is iser bishul. Even if you're not going to eat it, and even if you're not going to have any hana from it, you're not allowed to cook. Even for no good reason, you're not allowed to cook milk and meat together. These are iser, these are lav. So that's why the Torah spells it out 3 times. The iser basar v'chalav, 1 for bishul, 1 for achila, and 1 for hana. L'maisa, if these 3 Issurim, cooking, eating, and having hana, why does the Torah write it all 3 times? Like sevashel gedi b'chalei v'imoi, don't cook the goat in its mother's milk. Cooking, the Torah should have said in one of the times like soichel gedi b'chalei v'imoi, like sehena. Zok the Gemara. This is a Gemara in Chulin Daf Kuf Ches Amar Aleph. The Torah is coming to be megala to us that you're only over when you eat basar v'chalav, only when it was made derech bishul, which means if somebody eats a burger with cheese on it, midoraisi you're not over. The isur achila is only when it was cooked together, and then you eat it, then you're over. And the same thing as hana. The Torah says lo savashal, and we learn one of the lo savashals is for achila, and one of the lo savashals is for hana. To say that the achila, you're only over achila when you eat basar v'chalav, only if the basar v'chalav was made through bishul. And the same thing as hana also. The chinuch says even more, another din, that the iser achila is even if you eat it, zok the chinuch, even if you eat it in a way that you have no hana, usually if there's achila, you eat something but you're not nehena when eating it, you're not over. But over here, it doesn't depend on the achila. Even if you eat it in a way that you don't have hana, you're still over. That's why it doesn't say lo seichel. If it would say lo seichel, you would think only if you have hana. So we have over here clearly that the these 3 Issurim, Isser bishul, Isser achila, and Isser hana. And the bishul and the hana is only when it was cooked together. Achila, we don't really have to explain. Achila, we understand. You have to, just like any machalas asuris, it's pasha where the isser achila is. Where is the isser hana? So the isser hana could be negeya in many different cases. Let's say a person has a cleaning lady, a live-in, and even if they have their own utensils, their own pot, or their own microwave, you're not allowed to go and prepare and cook up a dish that's basar v'chalav. That would be, that's for the Isser Bishul. We're focusing now on the Isser Hana. So Isser Hana would be, let's say, to give them food. If somehow you have it turned by mistake basar v'chalav, and you want to give them, you want to feed them. Another case, to feed your animals. You're not allowed to feed your animals basar v'chalav. And it's very negeya, people that have pets, you have to be careful that your pet food is not basar v'chalav. these kashrus agencies that give a hechsher on the pet food, the OU, the CRC from Chicago, I spoke to Rabbi Fishbein today, he clarified, Taka, that they give a hechsher on pet food, and the reason for that is because be'etzem, it could be a problem of basar v'chalav, which you now even have hana. So the they give a hechsher that it's not basar v'chalav. Now, Agav, he explained that the hechsher they give, they don't put on a regular symbol, because it can be confusing that you can think it's kosher to eat, and they're not kosher at all. And another thing is, he says, even though eating it is not so common to eat pet food, but what's more common is that people that have pets, so you put in the utensils that are used for the pets to eat, you put it in the dishwasher together with your regular. So if it's treif, it could be a problem in kashrus, so therefore that's where it's negeya, at least basar v'chalav. So anyways, that would be a case, a tzir, where basar v'chalav having hana. Agav, there are those that oppose it because you can make a mistake. If there's a hechsher, people think you could eat it also. But anyways, that's where it's negeya, the isser hana. However, even though there's a isser hana, the Gemara in Kedushin, it's a Mishnah, somebody who's makadish a isha with basar v'chalav, it's eina makadeshes because it's asa b'hana. It's not money. It's not worth anything. There's no hana. However, if let's say somebody sells basar v'chalav, which really you're not allowed to because it's asa b'hana, but it went and you sold it and you took that money and you makadish isha, it's makadeshes, which means it's not toifes damim. Only two cases. Shvius, it's toifes, even if you sell it, the money also becomes Isuri Hana. However, most of the cases of Isuri Hana, when you sell it, the money is not Asar B'Hana. So Mamela, if somebody sells Basar V'chalav, you're not allowed to do it, but the money is not going to be Asar. The Bir Halacha, it's a Shulchan Aruch in Hilchas Pesach, the same din as Lagabi Chametz is also Asar B'Hana. And if you sell the Chametz, the money is Mutter B'Hana. But if it was sold, there was no kinyan yet, or even if there was a kinyan, but you didn't get the money, says the Bir Halacha, l'tchatchilu, you shouldn't take the money. The same would be any of these Issurim or Basar v'chalav also. It's the gay people, business deals, if Basar v'chalav gets involved, before selling it, it's for sure Aser because it's Isuri Anah. You're not allowed to have Anah. But if sold, if you have the money already, then it's Mutter. But if you don't have the money, Elafilu kvar nikna chametz. You did the transaction. La'aka b'kinyan gam. I know I'm talking about chametz, but the same is a basar v'chalav of any Isuri Anah. Also loy l'tchatchilo l'kabel amoyis b'kula alma. Shibura speaks even the Ramah is not, the Machaber is not l'kula alma. But anyways, so we have over here that the Isser basar v'chalav is the Isser bishul, achila, and anah. Three spelled out, three psukim in the Torah. The Pashtus, it's three Issurim. These are Isser Bishul, Isser Achila, and Isser Anah. If you take a look in the Chinuch only counts the Issurim for two Issurim. Again, we said these three Psukim, Le'savashal Gediba Chalev Imay, one is for Isser Bishul, one is for Achila, one is for Hana. The Pashtus is that it's three different Lavin, three Psukim, three Lavin. The Chinuch says, the Chinuch is moinit, when he counts the lavim, he only brings it two of them. The Isser Bishul and the Isser Achila. And the Chinuch himself explains why doesn't he count the Isser Anah for a separate lav. And he says, because really every Achila, like the Gemara says, anytime it says, Lo Yisoichal, Echad Isser Achila, Ve'echad Isser Anah b'mashma. And therefore, every achila is a hana, it's an extreme hana, and therefore it's michla when the Torah says achila, hana is included. And the same is basar v'chalav. When there's an isser, achila, hana is included, and it's one lav. One lav, it's one isser. You're going to ask me if it's one isser, so why do you have to have two psukim? A second and a third pasuk, one for achila, one for hana. It's one lav, it's one isser. Zok the Chinuch, because if it would only say one of them, you would say only Achila and not Hana. Why? Because if the Torah spells it out, Lo Yisoichal, so in Achila means Hana also. But the Torah doesn't spell out Achila, the Torah says Lo Yisavashal. And we're saying Lo Yisavashal means Achila. If loisavashal means achila, could be it means only achila, not hana. Not hana. Like we said before, the reason why it doesn't say loisoichal, because if we're saying the Torah, if we're just saying the Torah loisoichal, we would say loisoichal means even when it's not cooked together. So loisavashal means an achila that it's cooked together. But lamaisa, the Torah doesn't spell out loisoichal. Since the Torah doesn't say loisoichal, if the Torah doesn't spell out clearly loisoichal, then loisavashal, which means achila, would only mean achila, not hana. So we have to have another pasuk in the Torah to say hana. But not that it's a separate lav, like the chinuch, it's two lav. So we have the isser basar v'chalav. Some argue on the chinuch that it is actually three. So we have the isser bishul, isser achila, and the isser hana. That's the isser of basar v'chalav, to cook, to eat, or to have hana from milk and meat that were cooked together. Cooked together. What's the reason? Why did the Torah aser? What's the tam, the isser of basar v'chalav? Why did the Torah aser? There are many different reasons in the Rishonim. One is in the chinuch, and the chinuch says, I'll read the lashon. Ki yoidei Elokim, the Eibishter knows, shesoif ha'maisa hayoytzel b'nei adam ba'oisot stadam. He speaks about mixes, by making a mix. And the emes, let me just go back for a second. The chinuch, what I'm starting to read, is actually in Hilchos Kishuv. The chinuch by us and basar v'chalav says, you want to know what's the problem of basar v'chalav? It's mixing two minim that are separate. And when mixing two minim that are separate, you cause what comes out from it is bad. Bad things come out from it. And he explains, like I explained, the Isser by Kishuv, the Chinuch is Mayrich to explain why Lo Sachaya called Machshefa the Isser of Kishuv. And the Chinuch explains, Ki Yoidei Elokim, Shesoif HaMaisa HaYoytzel B'nei Adam Ba'oisam T'stadim, of mixing, by Kishuv, mixing things together. Ra Lahem, U'mepnei Zeh Monam. The Eibishter was Maineya, said not to do Kishuv. Dal Yidei Shem Ma'arif, bad things come out by mixing two things in the bria that are really separate. And therefore mixing basar v'chala, which is two separate entities, you mix it together, bad things come out, and that's why the Torah was meinea. Not only was the Torah meinea mixing, which is bishul, at kedei kach, we wanted to be marchik, even achila v'hana also. But the Yesoida Isser is the Bishul. And the truth is that since the Yesoida is the Bishul, we understand that even the Achila and even the Hano is only Haba Yidei Bishul. Because the Yesoida Isser is an Isser because of Bishul. And it's only, and Memele, even Achila and Hano is only Achila and Haba Yidei Bishul. Another reason is brought in the Rambam in Moyer Nevuchim. The Rambam in Moyer Nevuchim, Chele Gimel Perek Mem Ches, he says the following: even though basar v'chalav is be'etzim a full meal, it gives a person, it's zon, it's a gesunte meal, it's a lot of protein, it's the meat, it's the cheese, it's a good meal. The afapi the basar v'chalav u'mazon of ma'oid beloy safek u'moiled mili rav, it fills a person up. It's a very practical meal, basar v'chalav. But says the Rambam, ein rochek etzli. The Rambam seems not to be 100% sure, and even brings like a raya. The Rambam says, I think ein rochek etzli that sheyesh reach avodah zara. It's some type of it's a shmekt, it's a smell of avodah zara, the basar v'chalav. Why? He says because, first of all, by Avodah Zarah, Shekacha, they used to eat, by the Avodah Zarah, they used to eat these meals of basar v'chalav. And also, B'chag b'chageim, their holidays, they used to also eat basar v'chalav. So the Isser basar v'chalav is a harchaka to be marchik from Avodah Zarah. If the Olam remembers this past summer's man when we learned Hilchos Shatnez, the same reason was Lagabi Shatnez. The Rambam also in Moyer Nevuchim says, the Isser Shatnez is because the Kaimer, the Galach of the Avodah Zarah used to wear a beged of shatnez. Either that's how he was over Avodah Zarah, he used to kishuv like that, but that was also it's a chaka from Avodah Zarah. And the Rambam goes and brings a raya that it's to be marchik from Avodah Zarah. He says, we're 2 out of the 3 times that the Torah says the Isser Basar v'chalav, le'savashal gediba chalev imoi, is in the parsha of Mayadim, of Yom Tovim. Says the Rambam, again the Lashon is, he says he brings a raya, I don't have the Lashon written over here, he brings a raya also that the reason why the Torah spells it out by Mayadim is since by Mayadim it's lahavdol, not their chagim, and it's also in those times, and by your Yom Tovim, and by your time that you go lahavdol to the Eibishter, don't be mavashal basar v'chalav together. That's the second reason. A third reason is brought in Rabbeinu Bechaya. Rabbeinu Bechaya says the reason of the Isser is because the chalav really dam nekar v'nasa chalav. This milk really originates from blood. And by dam, we know there's an Isser of dam. What's the Isser of dam? The Isser of dam, like the Rishonim explained, the Ramban says it by Behemis Tameis, that it's moiled midas achzarius. And by dam is the same thing also. It doesn't it stays in a person's body, the blood. And since it's moiled midas achzarius, the Torah acid blood. So over here, it's not blood, it's milk. And milk is the chmutter, so what's the pshat? So Rabbeinu Bechaya, when you mix the milk with the meat, it gets back its koyach adam, and the meilah, that's the Isser of Basar v'chalav. The Isser of Basar v'chalav is because the milk, by it being cooked, again, dafka bishul, by being cooked, it gets back to its previous koyach adam, and the meilah, it's moiled achzarius. That's another reason of the Isser of Basar v'chalav. So we have so far the Isser, the Makoira Isser, these Isser Bishul, Isser Achila, Isser Hana. And we saw 3 reasons in the Rishonim why it's Aser. But the Yisoida Isser is an Isser of Bishul. Even the Achila has to be with a Bishul. We'll begin now for a few minutes and try to go in a bit to the Geder of the Bishul. Obviously, in a few minutes, you can't cover all the different Ifanim. We'll start, maybe it'll be a part 2, but to begin a little bit discussing the Ifani Bishul, where the Torah Aserd, where what's not a Bishul. We'll start first with a case, what's not a Bishul, and that's the Shach over here, Siman Pei Zayin, where we started, Sivkot and Aleph. When the Shulchan Aruch speaks about the Isser Bishul, Ibi Lagabe Achila, but the Isser Bishul, so the Shach says, Avoloi al yidei kavush malicha. Kavush, if it's soaked, which means somebody soaks a piece of meat with milk, or malicha, somebody pickles the meat and the milk together. But chahai gavana, that's not called bishul. And it's not aser not to cook, not to eat midiraisa. Midirabanan it's also even if you don't pickle it, just eating it together. But midiraisa it's not also when it's soaked or pickled together. What would be the tzad that it should be aser? Why should it be aser? Because really there's a yisoid. The yisoid is kavish kamavushal, and melicha is kireiseach, which really means that kavish kamavushal, it has a din like lagabe other Issurim, other places. The Megadim speaks a lot about it, like in Taruvis, kavish kamavushal, it's like you had a bishul of Taruvis, of Isser, of Treifa in a pot. But lagabe basar v'chalav, there's a chiddush, that's not called bishul. And Mamela, when the Torah says there's an Isser of cooking basar v'chalav, it's only when you cook, not when you soak it together, when you pickle it together. What's about sli, roasting it, which that's obviously very common. If you don't cook it in a pot, if it's on a grill, or it's even in the oven and it's being it's grilled. So what's grilled? And technically the same shaila, it would be also about deep fried. Deep fried is its own machlekes, but we'll focus a little bit on grilled. Grilling is a machlekes apaiskim. The pri chadash, and then there's a whole list. Besides that, pri megadim, chachmasadim, pri chadash says that sli is kemavashal. If somebody grills basar v'chalav together, that's the Isser HaTorah, to cook it, whatever, to grill it, to eat it. And he brings a raya from a pasuk in Parshas Re'eh. The pasuk says, when the pasuk speaks about Korban Pesach, the pasuk says, Ubarshalta v'achalta, talking about the Korban Pesach, you'll cook the Korban Pesach, v'achalta, and you'll eat it, b'mokum asher yivchar Hashem alekecha. Talking about the Korban Pesach. Frekte pri chadash, what do you mean, uvarshalta? These are isser, you're not allowed to cook the Korban Pesach. So what does it mean, uvarshalta? So he says, al karchach, that even tzli, roasting, grilling, roasting, is also considered cooking. And that's why when the Torah says, uvarshalta, the Torah doesn't mean that you're allowed to cook the Korban Pesach. But tzli, roasting, also could be called bishul. And therefore, somebody roasts, somebody's over. That's the Shita Sapri Chadash. V'idoch, the Hachaim, and in his Sefer Pri Toyer, argues on this Pri Chadash. Mamash, he has an Arichas Gadol with Rayas, and he argues and he says, you're not over. Which means if somebody roasts, somebody wants to work in a McDonald's, and it's Negeya only to grill, to broil, not to cook, Basar v'chalav, l'chayru, who'd be allowed to do it. In the pasuk we see a barshalta that l'chayru, the Torah says a barshalta to cook. You're not allowed to cook the Korban Pesach. Al karchach, broil, grilling is also called cooking. So he says no. He says that pasuk is going back on the shlomim. It's going back on the Korban, the shlom. The shlom you're allowed to cook. It's not a raya. But avada broiling basar v'chalav, there's no isser midiraisa not to broil it and not to eat broiled basar v'chalav. Avada midrabanan, it's going to be asa to eat, but midiraisa there's no isser not bishul b'chahai gavna of tzli. There are other cases of bishul, even if you're in a regular case of bishul, regular standard case with fire under the pot, water in the pot, and it could be bishul of basar v'chalav, but not your typical case, not your case that you have chicken soup and you put milk inside. In a case where there's no bittul v'shishim, you have a regular bishul basar v'chalav. There's another two cases. Let's say you have a spoon, a milchige spoon, which milchix means that it's ben yoimai. An hour ago, you used it to make hot coffee, milk. So it's inside, the milk is inside. It has to be ben yoimai, because after Eina ben yoimai won't be a problem. It has to be that day. And you use that spoon to mix inside chicken soup. There also, one will be over the isser of bishul basar v'chalav. Another case, but this other case, the Ramah only says it's a chumrah ba'alma. If, let's say, mistakenly, that spoon of chalav got mixed in with meat, whatever the case was, and now in the spoon it's treif as basar v'chalav, and you take the spoon and you want to make peas, and you take this spoon and you mix it. So over there, says the Ramah, you should also refrain from using such a spoon, because lamaisa, the blias of the basar and the blias of the chalav are going to come out and it's going to get mixed up in there. But it's only a chumrah ba'alma. The Chassam Sofer says because it's really multiple sveikis. He's talking about a case of a guy, but I just wanted to bring it, just opening up, that this is another case of bishul, but not a regular, your standard bishul when you have a pot. A bishul with the blias coming out. There's another part in bishul to be discussed, and that's bishul achar bishul. We had a tzad to learn Hilchas Shabbos, so a little bit to bring it in. What do you mean bishul achar bishul? There could be three cases of bishul achar bishul, and we'll discuss each one separately. Bishul achar bishul, meaning to say, there's one case, the basar v'chalav was already cooked. The basar v'chalav, the dish, the soup with the milk was cooked. and somebody goes and reheats it. So he's cooking basar v'chalav. Is somebody over? That's one case. There's another case that it wasn't mixed yet. We'll give a case. The meat was cooked by itself. The cheese, the milk was cooked by itself. And after, now you go and you cook them together. Over there also, do you say ein bishul achar bishul? Or when you cook it together, you're going to be over the isser bishul. And then a third case, and then I'm going to repeat each one separately. There's a third case of, let's say, what we started before of kavush. Let's say the meat was soaked with milk, which we said kavush is not kimavushal. So if it's not kimavushal, what happens afterwards? You go and you cook the meat together with the milk. Is somebody over the isser of bishul basar v'chalav v'chahai gavna? It's kavush einik kimavushal. You weren't over soaking it together. So now when you cook it a little later, could you fix it or not? So first we'll go to this last case. It's pretty simple. If somebody took milk and soaked meat in milk, which he's not over doing that midiraisa, afterwards if he goes and he does a proper bishul of the milk and the meat together, says the Noida Yehuda, it's an isser midiraisa without a suffix. Others also say that it's pretty pashut. Avadi, you didn't do a bishul earlier, so now you have a bishul. There is a chaylik, the Darkei Tshuva, and others bring the Yad Shol. The Yad Shol says you're not over, because Lamaisa, kavish k'mavushal was cooked. Yitaka weren't yoytze to be, not yoytze, you didn't do a proper bishul to be over, but Lamaisa was bishul, you're not over. But the Pashas HaPoskim is in that case, you're over. If you do each one separately, which means first the meat was cooked, and the milk was cooked separately, and now one goes and cooks them together. Over there says the Chassam Sofer, it's pshita that you're over, and you don't say ein bishul achar bishul, which means even though in Shabbos there's a klal ein bishul achar bishul, I think the Chassam Sofer says this reason, if not maybe it's a reason that you could say, that even though ein bishul achar bishul, but you never did a bishul yet of basar v'chalav together. You did a bishul, you cooked the meat up. You did a bishul, you cooked the chalav up. But you never did a bishul to cook them both together. So a Mela over there says the Chassam Sofer, you're going to be over. The Gilya Marsha brings like that also, Prima Gadim. However, in the third case, in the case that the basar v'chalav was already cooked, and you just want to reheat it, you have your cleaning lady and she has it already, was cooked already, and you just want to put it in the microwave, tray for microwave you have for her, or a pot or something, could you reheat it, this basar v'chalav which was already cooked together? The Prima Gadim says that it's mutter. The Gil Mashal brings Prima Gadim says it's mutter. Me'idoch, the Yad Afraim, also others say that it's aser, it's a machloikis. If you say ein bishul achar bishul b'chahai gavran, that it was already cooked, the basar v'chalav together. One more small and important pointer is that just like there's a din amira la'akim by Shabbos, which the din amira la'akim by Shabbos is not only a din only by Shabbos, it's din all over. The Shulchan Aruch brings it, I think it's by Neter Rabbi, Yeridea later on. The Shulchan Aruch says any isser that you're not allowed to do, you're not allowed to tell a guy to do. So maybe there's an isser amira la'akim also, you're not allowed to go and tell your guy to do it, the bishul. So just to be masakim, what we had over here, we saw the makor, these isser achila, isser ana, isser bishul. We saw a few reasons why it's aser, and then we opened up in the gather of the isser bishul, what goes into bishul, what type of bishul achar bishul, and amir la'akim would be aser.